hello there, curious minds! Most people think Claude Opus 4.7 is Anthropic's best model, but there's a quieter release that just shattered every benchmark I was watching, and it's called Mythos Preview. On SWE-bench Pro, it hits 77.8%. Compare that to Opus 4.7, quote, 53.4%. That's not a small improvement. That's a doubling. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Most of you can't use it yet. It's restricted to a cybersecurity initiative so significant that 12 of the world's largest tech companies signed up for it on day one. Let me explain exactly why, and why it matters for everyone working with AI, whether you have access or not. Claude Mythos Preview is Anthropic's newest frontier model, but it's not a consumer product. It's part of Project Glasswing, a cybersecurity initiative that nobody saw coming. Announced April 7th, 2026. Project Glasswing brings together Amazon, Apple, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Palo Alto Networks, and others to find and fix vulnerabilities in the world's most critical software. Think of it this way. While the industry was focused on chatbots and coding agents, Anthropic quietly trained a model specifically designed to find vulnerabilities. And it found them in Firefox, in the Linux kernel, in OpenBSD, real, serious, zero-day vulnerabilities that got patched. Here's what makes this different from a typical product launch. Anthropic has committed $100 million in API credits to partners in this initiative, plus an additional $4 million in direct donations to open-source security organizations like the Linux Foundation and Apache Software Foundation. Pricing once credits expire is set at $25 per million input tokens and $125 per million output. But here's what's truly staggering. In testing, Mythos Preview autonomously chained together vulnerabilities to perform a Linux kernel privilege escalation attack from scratch without human guidance. That's the kind of capability that makes security researchers very, very nervous. Let's talk numbers because they tell a striking story. On SWE-bench Pro, the coding benchmark that matters for agentic tasks, Mythos Preview hits 77.8%. Compare that to Opus 4.7 at 53.4%, and you see what I mean about doubling performance. On SWE-bench Verified, it reaches 93.9%, nearly perfect. And when researchers extended the timeout to 4 hours on Terminal Bench 2.0, Mythos hit 92.1%. That's not just better, it's a different category entirely. On CyberGym, the cybersecurity benchmark, it scores 83.1% versus Opus 4.7, quote, 66.6. GPQA Diamond, for pure science reasoning, shows 94.6%. The interesting part, these aren't just lab benchmarks. Mythos found real-world vulnerabilities, a 27-year-old OpenBSD bug, one of the most security-hardened operating systems on the planet, used for firewalls and critical infrastructure worldwide, a 16-year-old FFmpeg bug that millions of automated fuzz tests had missed, a FreeBSD NFS remote code execution vulnerability that gave any unauthenticated user on the internet complete root control over affected systems. For pure reasoning on humanity's last exam, with tools enabled, it reaches 64.7. And on SWE-bench multimodal, tests that involve both code and visual understanding, it scores 59% versus Opus 4.7, quote, S27.1%. The numbers don't lie. This is a genuinely different tier of capability. Let me give you the specifics, because the details are jaw-dropping. Take the OpenBSD vulnerability. Mythos found a remote denial of service bug in the SAC implementation. TCP selective acknowledgement. The issue was assigned integer overflow with sequence numbers, a subtle latent flaw in one of the most scrutinized operating systems on the planet, and it had been there for 27 years. Or the FFmpeg H264 codec bug. A single frame containing 65,536 slices causes a collision with a sentinel value, leading to an out-of-bounds heap write. The underlying bug dates to 2003. FFmpeg has been fuzz-tested millions of times. This one slipped through for 16 years. Here's the one that really got attention. FreeBSD NFS remote code execution, CVE 20264747. A stack buffer overflow in the RPCsec GSS authentication protocol. 17 years old. Fully autonomous exploit writing by Mythos. It split 1,000+ byte ROP chain over 6 sequential RPC requests to bypass the 200-byte limit. Any unauthenticated user on the internet could have gained complete root control. And this wasn't just one operating system. Mythos found vulnerabilities in every major browser, chained 4 of them together for JIT heap spray that escaped both renderer and OS sandboxes. Found weaknesses in the world's most popular cryptography libraries, TLS implementations, AES-GCM, every major operating system, every major browser, cryptography libraries used by billions of people. This is what frontier AI capability looks like in practice. So why should you care about a model you can't use yet? 3 reasons. First, the techniques Anthropic develops for Mythos tend to flow downstream into their public models. The safety research, the context handling, the reasoning approaches, this is where Claude's future is being forged. Second, Project Glasswing represents a new model for how frontier AI companies think about capability deployment. They acknowledge that extremely capable models have cybersecurity implications. Instead of just releasing and hoping for the best, they're working with security researchers up front. This is the responsible approach, even if it means keeping capabilities restricted. Third, and this is the practical angle, if you're building security-critical applications, the landscape just changed. The model that finds vulnerabilities is now table stakes. Your threat model needs to account for AI-assisted exploit discovery. Anthropic has committed to a 90-day transparency report. What they learned, vulnerabilities fixed, improvements made that can be disclosed. That comes in July 2026. But the message is already clear. The offensive capabilities of frontier AI have arrived. Key takeaways. Mythos Preview is Anthropic's most capable coding model. 77.8% SWE-bench Pro, 93.9% verified, 92.1% terminal bench. 4-hour timeout. It's restricted to Project Glasswing partners. Not publicly available, may never be. Real-world vulnerability discovery. OpenBSD, 27-year. FFmpeg, 16-year. FreeBSD NFS, RCE. Techniques will flow into public Claude models eventually. If you're using Claude for security-critical work, the threat model is changing now. Who should pay attention? Security researchers, red teams, developers working on infrastructure, and anyone building with AI-assisted development. The benchmarks alone tell you something fundamental shifted in the Claude family. That's the picture on Claude Mythos Preview. Anthropic's quiet powerhouse that's redefining what AI-assisted security research looks like. Whether you can access it or not, the capability trajectory is clear. Keep your eyes on Anthropic's Project Glasswing announcements. That July transparency report will be fascinating. And keep watching how these techniques appear in the next generation of Claude models. That's all for today, curious minds. Catch you in the next one. Until next time, curious minds!